All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the special city commission meeting for May 12th, 2020 at 7 o'clock. Good roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Here.
Commissioner Hudak,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parnas,
Here.
Mayor Gantz.
Here. If we could have reading of the national anthem, or excuse me, the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. Excellent job, Madam Clerk, popping in and out like that. That's perfect.
Thank you.
We have approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Parnas, second from Commissioner Hudak. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. City Manager or City Clerk, whichever would like to start.
We're on item number one. Item number one is discussion regarding the cancellation of the city's 4th of July celebration and firework display.
So good evening, Mayor, City Commission, Dave Santucci, your City Manager. At the last commission meeting, I did discuss with you during my comments the 4th of July celebration. My recommendation to not host that event this year and the reasons why. Since that time, I've spoken with some of you individually, and I want to thank the mayor for calling this special meeting to just go through this again with you, put that information in front of you that I provided, along with some updates that we have received based on what some other municipalities are doing around us related to 4th of July, which even up till now may not even be up to date. We may have some additional updates that have come to light since I got this information earlier today. But nonetheless, I'd like to go through this presentation and tell you what we know so far. Next slide, please. So typically our attendance brings somewhere between 80 to 90,000 people to our beach every year. Our estimated expenses are just short of $100,000. We tend to bring in about $20,000 worth of revenue for a cost of about $80,000 to put on this event in the manner that we have in the past. And then when we look at what the staffing levels that we have out there with the attendance of 80 to 90,000, we generally have about 92 staff that support this event, 80 from law enforcement, and about 20 from fire rescue. What I want to point out is when it comes to staff, and the reason why I show that is the obvious concern with the event is social distancing. And does an event like this on July 4th make sense in regards to where we will be in the phased reopening of not only businesses, but special events and large venue events and those sorts of things. The reason in particular why under law enforcement you see 15 SWAT is because we generally have about 15 SWAT deputies here during that event. But ever since COVID, the SWAT team has been sequestered to a large extent so that there is no exposure to that to that resource within the Broward Sheriff's Office. And we do not have a commitment at this point that they would even allow SWAT to be out there should we hold the 4th of July celebration. So that's something to consider. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things that was discussed amongst the commission at the last meeting was, well, can we modify the event? And the answer, frankly, is yes. But these are some of the considerations that we at the staff level discussed that need to be taken into consideration when making that decision. One would be, how do you restrict you restrict it? How do you scale back the event so that you don't bring out 80 to 90,000 people, which would not be a recommended attendance for any type of event, I think, around the July timeframe. So could you make it for residents only? And what would that take? So you would have to basically restrict access on the entire island from north to south and over the bridge, and maybe even before the bridge, to residents only, I would presume. And what you'd basically be creating there, once we started looking at it, you're really looking at what our mandatory hurricane evacuation conditions look like, when we block everything off and we only allow the people on the island to be on the island, and so on and so forth. And if you've ever seen that maneuver, it takes a lot of resources to control that access. And that would include pedestrians as well. We would have to have BSO checkpoints, which I'll show you on a map here in a minute. We would have to choose a time in which we would have to restrict that access. And obviously, we wouldn't want to do it any later than noon. So basically, any resident, or non-resident, I should say, that wanted to access the barrier island past that specific time frame, which we designate, would not be allowed. And that would apply to then the considerations are, well, what if they're a Hillsborough Beach resident? What if they're a Boca resident and they're trying to get through the island to get to their destination? There's also waterway navigation issues that we believe that would bring, because if you're going to host the event, people are going to try to get to it. And we have seen in the past some really funny things. We've seen people try to swim across the intercoastal in situations when we've had lockdowns on the island related to hurricane evacuations. We've seen people try to get boats over onto the island through the intercoastal. And then how do we account for the hotel guests and or short-term rentals if short-term rentals are allowed at that point in time again? So we'd have to consider those considerations as well, and distinguishing between a resident trying to get on the island and a hotel guest or short-term rental guest staying on the island as well. And if we limit it to residents only, we have to consider the business impacts. So assuming that we are headed in the right direction and business are reopening, I'd like to speak to that a little bit later off this conversation about businesses reopening. If we only have residents on the island for 4th of July, how is that going to affect the businesses, particularly the retail and the restaurants that won't have those non-residents on the island? Will it impact them? And then, of course, we have the Cove parking lot, which if we only closed it off on the bridge, then you're going to get a lot of parking of residents within the Cove. And so now you've got the Cove taken up by parking for the fireworks and not for the Cove businesses. And so that is a potential impact to the area as well. Also keep in mind the date that the 4th of July falls on, and because we expect that this will be a weekend long event. 4th of July falls on a Saturday this year. And so the holiday will be on the 3rd. And so you're basically talking about Thursday night through Sunday of a 4th of July weekend. And so it's going to be it's going to be well celebrated, I'm sure, no matter what we do. And then the impacts of other cities canceling, and that's something to consider as well, because if we're the only game in town, then we're likely to be overrun. And we've seen this already with the beaches here in Florida. When you talk about Naples just over the weekend opening up their beaches and having to close that down to residents only because everybody from South Florida had gone over to be on the Naples beaches. And similar things have occurred up the coast with Martin County and St. Lucie County, where they have opened their beaches and then had to scale back to residents only and or close some of their beaches because they simply just got overrun by folks outside of the county who want to get onto the beach. And I suspect that we would see those same pressures if there's a lot of other cities that are canceling their events. And so to go into that conversation, the most recent information I have in relation to who hosts their 4th of July events, who has already canceled, who is still waiting. This is what I have so far. Coral Springs, Lauderhill, Miramar, Pompano, Wilton Manors, they all host 4th of July events, and they're waiting for a response on that. I believe that Pompano Beach is headed in that direction of canceling. I did speak with their city manager today. We conversed. He wanted to know what we are doing. I wanted to know the same. And he has his opinion about hosting the 4th of July event. I believe Coral Springs is headed towards canceling their event as well. Lauderhill, Miramar, and Wilton Manors all are likely to cancel. So there's 5 right there. Having not made a decision yet would be Davie, who they'll be discussing that at their May 20th council meeting. The city of Fort Lauderdale has a deadline of May 29th. Hollywood must make the decision by May 15th. They're in the same circumstance as we are. Lauderdale by the Sea, I believe, is recommending to cancel at tonight's meeting that they're having. Margate is planning that they will have some sort of modified event. That perhaps they'll have a drive-by parade or something along those lines, but nothing definitive from Margate at this time. Plantation is leaning towards fireworks with no attendees. I don't know the details of what that means or what that looks like, where they'll be hosting them. I think geographically, they're in a little bit different position than us. I believe that they have a central park that is at the heart of their city, that they have the opportunity to probably do that without hosting the event itself. North Lauderdale, for the best of my knowledge, has not made a decision at this time, and Tamarack will be making their decision on Wednesday, and they are leaning towards canceling. Pembroke Pines, Sunrise, and Weston have all canceled their 4th of July festivities. And then equally important, I think, as it relates to the other cities who do not normally host 4th of July events, but important to recognize, because obviously if any of the residents of those cities want to attend a 4th of July celebration, they'll be looking for one. And those cities are Coconut Creek, Cooper City, Dania Beach, Hollandale Beach, Hillsborough Beach, Lauderdale Lakes, Lazy Lake, Lighthouse Point, Oakland Park, Parkland, Pembroke Park, Sea Ranch Lakes, Southwest Ranches, and West Park. Thank you. Next slide. So what would a closure look like, and what would we have to do? These are the access points that we would have to man from a law enforcement perspective to ensure that we could maintain that resident-only access onto the beach. If the decision was made to just do a resident-only beach event, we already discussed the complications surrounding that, but here's a visual map of it. Next slide, please. So we talked last time about the deadlines. And so if we give the cancellation before May 15th, we incur no costs. If we do it between May 15th and June 4th, we estimate that we'll be on the hook for approximately $10,000 from the fireworks company. After June 1st, that's when we have to make the decision for the entertainers and the sound company. Those costs are approximately $12,500. We have the kids zone activities. There's no cost to that, but we have to provide the cancellation notice by that date. After June 4th, we're on the hook for the full cost of the fireworks, which is $45,000, of course, to 2 entertainers. And then if we cancel anytime between June 4th and July 4th, the expenses increase as we will have additional event expenses, entertainment contracts, and of course, staffing, the total amount that we talked about earlier. Next slide, please. Again, here are the other cancellations that we're aware of: Lauderdale by the Sea, Lauderdale Lakes, Margate, Miramar, Sunrise, Wilton Manors, Pompano making their decision tonight, and Plantation. And then what I touched upon at the last meeting is, you know, unfortunately, the decision needs to be made sooner than later if we want to avoid incurring any costs for the event. But we don't know what our situation will look like on July 4th as it relates to COVID-19 and the social distancing requirements that will be under. Because again, the Reopening America protocols call for a 3-phased approach. And it's within that 3rd phase that, as you can see here, that large venues may operate under limited physical distancing protocols. And so it's at that stage where they've relaxed a lot of the CDC guidelines at that point. And the question remains, are we going to be there on July 4th? And you can see what that gating criteria is to get there, reminding everyone that currently we haven't even hit phase 1. That I believe is coming here shortly, but we haven't hit phase 1. And that would mean that we have this, for the 3rd time in a row, we have had a downward trajectory of the influenza and COVID-like symptoms, that our trajectory of cases is down along with the positive tests and the percentage of those total tests in a 14-day period 3 times again, and that we are treating all patients without crisis care, and there's robust testing for healthcare workers and through emerging antibody testing. So you have to meet the criteria 3 times for a 14-day period to get to the phase 3. And the question remains, what is a large venue? How, as a large venue, which I would consider our 4th of July celebration to be, how do you even still at that point operate with the limited physical distancing protocols? That's yet to be seen, even defined, quite frankly. Next slide, please. And that's all I have for you in terms of presenting the information, and I'm available to answer any questions. Additionally, I have staff from Parks and Recreation, law enforcement, fire rescue, and others to answer any specific questions that you may have.
Thank you. We have some hands up. Commissioner Hudak first.
And this is something I just sprung on Dave 10 minutes before the meeting, but has there been any thoughts of moving the venue to Quiet Waters? If you move it to Quiet Waters, you could limit the access to a number of individuals, you know, so that you can make sure that you keep the social distancing. You may even just have them stay in their cars, as opposed to having it on the beach. Is that a viable option?
The true answer, and I appreciate you telling everyone that you gave me 10 minutes to think about this.
Yeah,
is that I don't know, because truthfully, we don't know if Broward County would allow us to do it in the park on July 4th. I don't know if they would allow us to do it with restrictions, limiting it to a certain number of individuals, or even limiting it to our residents. But what I will say is that aside from the food distribution events that we're hosting, which, you know, for good reason, we're not charging for admission. Every other time we have asked the county to use the park, they charge admission. So there would be an admission fee into the park that Broward County would retain. I'm sure we would have to sign an event agreement if they're even willing to do that. And then I believe that our costs would be much higher because we would have to pay for the county personnel as well. But again, we can substantiate all of that during the week if we can get answers from the county.
Okay. Is that all, Commissioner Hudak?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Preston.
You know, I understand what the city manager was saying in regard to some of the other cities. And, you know, we can look at that for consideration. But in the end, we must do what we feel is right for the residents of Deerfield Beach. And there's a couple things of consideration here. One, after May 15th, there's a cost that is incurred, and the longer we go, and there's going to be different costs that are there. And in the end, if we end up after the May 15th start time and then June 1st, and we end up saying no, then there is a cost significant to the residents of Deerfield Beach. Whatever we do, we first must ensure that whatever decision is made is that it ensures our residents' safety. If we are not 100% confident that we can maintain the social distancing, then I think it would be a mistake to have this. What I think that we can do as we go along, and everybody is a bit more comfortable with how we're dealing with this from a national perspective and then the state perspective, that there's a comfort level, we can always, as a city, plan another date and time and have a big bash and have another time that we just celebrate it. But letting the residents know that the only reason, though we feel that it's important to have a 4th of July celebration, that, you know, your safety comes first, and we're not 100% sure that we're going to be able to do that. If we were to have it where people are involved, you know how kids are, they will be playing together and boom, there it goes. It's not going to be something that is very easy to maintain. There's going to be multiple challenges with that. And if we can't be 100% certain that we can do it, we need to really look at that being the first parameter and the most important, most important part of our decision.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Parnas.
I have two reasons why I oppose the event. The first one, it's not worth a single life of a child in this city to shoot off fireworks. Let that sink in. We know that if you're going to have crowds and we can't maintain 100% social separation, our police chief said even if 20,000 people come, he can't control it. So it's going to cause illness and some deaths. My second reason is we are going to be losing a fortune in taxes. We get a piece of the gasoline tax, we get a piece of this tax, that tax. No, we have to maintain the city financially. Spending $80,000 is out of the question at this time financially. We are going to take a huge hit in what we get from the state and the city because everybody's losing money. Until the economy is back on its feet, I think we have to limit our spending, not expand it. But my most important reason is, and I've had a child who just recovered from this, no, I won't risk our citizens' lives because somebody wants to see fireworks. Sorry, not worth the risk. I vote no.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. This decision is not as easy as it would appear. There's a lot of people that are anxious to get out there and celebrate the 4th of July, which is a very meaningful holiday in our country. So what I did is I have a weekly newsletter, and last Friday I put in my newsletter that I wanted to hear from my District 4 residents what they had to say about this particular topic, whether we should cancel the 4th of July or not. And I received actually a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails on this subject, more than one would think. And there was 100% unanimity that everyone was disappointed to see the event potentially being canceled. everyone is looking forward to some type of distraction.
Joe Catroni's in here right now.
Is he?
Excuse me?
We need to make sure we have people muted. The exception of Commissioner Drosky.
Am I good?
Go right ahead.
My point was that people were looking forward to the distraction that the 4th of July weekend holds. However, it was almost as unanimous that people were making sure that the safety of our community comes first.
Yep.
That the social distancing needs to be practiced, and if it cannot, then we should not take that chance. And I think actually my colleague from District 2, Commissioner Preston, said it best at the last meeting, at the end of the last meeting, is that if we're going to err, if we're going to make a decision on this, and if we're going to make a mistake, our mistake should be on the side of public safety. And that I cannot get away from when making my decision. I know a lot of the residents from District 4 are going to be disappointed. I know if we were to hold an alternate event at the beach under the criteria that the city manager was talking, that a lot of those District 4 residents would not be able to even attend that type of event. And there's no guarantee that Quiet Waters Park or Pioneer Park would be suitable alternatives. And given the tight timeline that we're under, I'm going to regrettably, vote no as well to hold the event. But I would love to see some type of alternate parks really put their head together and think outside the box and come up with some other way that we can celebrate the 4th of July that would meet the parameters of the CDC. So I would encourage them to do that in the meantime, but I think going forward is just too risky.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody that's mailed in or sent any information regarding this item?
Yes, sir. We do have one email that came through from a resident.
Okay, can you read it verbatim, please?
Dear Mayor Gantz and City Commissioners, I watched the recent meeting and I must say that the discussion of the 4th of July celebration was reasoned and comprehensive. I need to move this. I was interested in what the city manager had to say about the costs and income associated with the event, but what really struck me was when he stated that last year's attendance was around 90,000 people. This event doesn't really make any substantial money for the city, but it is an event that celebrates our nation and our long road to democracy. That being said, is the city celebration an event for our residents, or is it something else? A big something else. But who is it serving? Also, Commissioner Preston mentioned how he enjoys the fireworks and watches them from his front yard. So do I. When I moved here in 1975, my parents and I went to the beach every year. We took our lawn chairs, put them on the sand, and greatly enjoyed the always spectacular fireworks display. The beach was not particularly overcrowded. Of course, there were no vendors and not much entertainment. The music came in later years. We had a great time. We would sit near the sidewalk and cluster with our neighbors. It was mostly Deerfield folks and a few immigrant residents from Boca Raton who came down because they basically had a very skinny beach. The only thing we didn't enjoy was the drawbridge flapping up and down, causing us to take about an hour to get the 1 mile to our house. Well, that in 1 year, I got bumped on the shoulder with a falling canister, but we had a good laugh about that. Still, it was worth it. So what happened to this Deerfield Beach event? Music was added, outside vendors were added, our fireworks are better than their fireworks, so residents from other cities flock to our event while Deerfield residents stay home. So 90,000 people enjoyed our fireworks last year. But how many of our residents no longer attend because it is a mob scene? I'm guessing that the number is small compared to the total attendance. Everyone in my neighborhood used to go. Now nobody goes. Watching from my driveway isn't difficult, except that the trees block the full view. But it's not the same as enjoying our fireworks from our beach. I'm just asking that you think about it for next year. Who is our target audience? Who comes first? Residents or anyone from anywhere? Is crowd size more important than who is in that crowd? What can we do to make this spectacular fireworks display more of a city event for city residents? That's a tough question. But where there's a will, there's a way. I believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations at the great anniversary festival. John Adams wrote to his wife Abigail, it ought to be celebrated by pomp and parade with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other. Thank you for reading this. Deborah Welgas. I live 7 blocks from City Hall, resident since 1975, homeowner since 1979.
Thank you very much. Is there
You're
any other?
welcome. No, sir, that was all.
Okay, I do not believe I see any other hands raised. I'll just say this. This is a tough decision. It's not something we take lightly, and it certainly is disappointing for many. We had discussions last year with our celebration and the issues that we had with the large attendance that we had. And we knew we were going to have problems keeping the crowds under control before all of this happened. Now you look at the herd mentality that's happening when people have been cooped up for several weeks and months. Once they're given the opportunity to come out, they come out in flocks that are unprecedented and overwhelming in many cases. So I think the biggest thing when looking at this is, are we able to keep our residents safe? And I think because this poses a real challenge for us to be able to answer that question and be able to firmly say that we have the ability to keep our residents safe and our visitors. I question whether we can, and I think it's in the best interest of the public and the city of Deerfield Beach for us to cancel the event for this year. We have, gentlemen, we're 2 minutes over now. We're supposed to go into our CRA meeting. We have, I see one person from the public who's now finally got his hand up. If that person would like to speak, it looks like.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dean Cowan, 3250 Southwest 2nd Court, Deerfield Beach. Regarding what you guys are talking, I don't know if I can talk about that or not, but I understand your reasoning, but we do have to look beyond what's going on for a celebration and why. In our area, we're suffering. As you know, many businesses are closing. We're being told by basically you, our leadership, that we have to stay closed and we have to wait it out. We have to understand, well, we're not making an income, but everyone that's telling us to wait is getting paid. As you know, domestic violence is up, suicides are up. And then what we can now do is heavy restrictions. We get threatened with fines. We get threatened with jail time. We get threatened with a lot of things. We do have the right to work. We also have the right to celebrate. We're not getting help from our city in a fashionable way that's saving businesses or helping people that really don't have any more money left and they're out of time. Also, we have to pay taxes, but yet we're not allowed to work. We're following a CDC guideline, but it's not a law. It's a recommendation. We are a country of laws. And again, our governor even stated that we're doing well, except for the elderly over 70 years of old. But yet we shut down everyone. We're being basically held hostage because of this. We're being jailed in our own homes.
Mr. Cowan, is this specific to the 4th of July event?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because basically where I'm going with this, you keep on taking away from us. You keep on saying that, hey, we know what's best for you. We're being not governed by people that we've elected, but we're being lorded over by people that are ordering us by their own discretions. We need something for our city. We need some things to happen. We need people to feel like they're residents again and not just trapped by a small group saying, we don't think so. I don't want to see anyone else die either. but I also don't want to see one of the most important days. We're supposed to be independent. It's an Independence Day. It's not a Dependence Day. And now we have become a dependence city. We are held in a way that we cannot overcome anything. We are being ordered and directed by mandates that continually change, and yet we now shut down an event. There has to be a way to make it where our people feel that they're respected. We can paint a tower while everyone is being told that they're non-essential, but we have a painter for a tower. We can stick that up there and say how pretty it looks, but we can't celebrate our independence. That's not right. It's not fair. And like one of the vice mayor said, he doesn't want to see a child die, nor do I. My granddaughter is very young, but at the same time, we need to celebrate who we are and what we stand for. We're no longer doing that. We have gone into the fear mode and being told that, oh, you want a child to die? Don't go out. But yet we're not getting the assistance, we're not getting the recognition, and we're not being treated as the people of Deerfield Beach. That needs to change, and it needs to change now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public before I close it to the public? I'm going to close it to the public, not seeing other hands raised. Let me make sure. I'm going to close it to the public. Vice Mayor Parnas and then Commissioner Preston.
I'm going to make a motion that we cancel the July 4th event this year.
Okay. Commissioner Preston?
I just wanted to make sure that whatever we do, we need to give our city manager clear direction. Whatever that decision is, he needs to feel comfortable with it. Now, he has told us what he thought is that it should be canceled. And if we decide that, that's fine, that it be clear to him. If we decide anything other than that, it should be clear to him. So I'm just wanting him to get clear direction one way or the other.
Okay. I think the motion on the floor right now is to cancel the event. Do we have a second for this motion?
I'll second that motion.
We have a second from Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parnas,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, extending the state of local emergency regarding COVID-19 until June 17th, 2020, authorizing the city manager to take appropriate actions and providing for an effective date. City Commission, the prior extension of the state of local emergency was going to end on the 17th in a few days, which was 2 days short of the regular commission meeting 2 days later. So this extended for another 30 days. And for clarification, this does not prevent business reopenings that may come into effect at the county level, let's say on the 18th. It extends the emergency powers as we've discussed in the past.
Commission? I'm going to open this to the public, actually, if we could. Is anyone from the public care to comment on this item? I don't see anyone from the public. We have any emails that have come in? Yes, we have one person that has their hand raised. Callan?
Yes, again, my name is Gene Callan, 3250 Southwest 2nd Court, Deerfield. Back to what I said about the fireworks, it's still applicable to this. We cannot take it anymore. We've had enough. We have to work. We don't have the finances. We don't have the resources. For me as a business owner, the PPP loan has not come through. The city has not helped me in any way. The county has not helped me. We need the ability to work. We are suffering. I know that as I spoke to the city manager one time, I reminded him that he has not yet waited in line for food. He has not had to stand outside asking for help. He has done nothing but get his paycheck, but yet he understood how I felt. I disagreed with him, respectfully disagreed with him. And I strongly urge you to allow us to go back to what we do. You said that, for the vice mayor said, we don't have the money. You're right, but we need to work to make the money so we can pay our taxes. I'm not getting a refund from the city for things I cannot now do, but I can't practically work while you hold us in a position of being, we just don't want you open, we're afraid of a virus. Yes, we need to be concerned, but no, we don't have to put ourselves in a lockdown of fear and not allow our people to work. We are closing businesses left and right. They're not making it, and people cannot pay their bills. My own mortgage company told me, put your house in foreclosure. Maybe we could help you. I have yet to miss a payment on my mortgage up until now. I'm actually considering, do I need to sell my own car just to get by? You see, you have held us back. We're not doing what we need to do. We're not being productive. We have the right to go out and work. We have the right to, yes, even make mistakes. We have the right to be careful. And those that are out there, they understand what they're up against. We're smart people in our city and in our county. We're able to make decisions that are based on what's safe. I know if I don't feel well, I stay home. But we need to allow us to do what we do. That's to earn our money, 1, to pay our taxes, 2, to pay our regular bills, and 3, to be helpful to our families. And by the way, one phrase that's been put around is people that are non-essential. Everyone that makes a wage is essential. Everyone's important to somebody. And it all goes back to how much they can make and what they can do and what they can't do. So please refrain from using that phrase of non-essential workers, because people have the right to be heard about this. They're important too, no matter what they do and how they do it. So please don't look to extend this further. We don't have the money to have you extend it for a let's see what happens issue. Our own governor stated we're one of the lowest in the country. We have less than 1,800 deaths. Out of the state of New York, when they put up the stats for today, 66% of the cases that went to the hospital were due to people staying at home, not doing anything. We need to change it. We need to protect our elderly. We need to protect our children, but we also need to protect our right to make a living. So please, I urge you all to look at what we are about, what we're trying to do, and allow us to do what we do for the better of our city. So I urge you to vote to open it up and not extend it another day. We don't have the money to wait and see anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? I'm going to close it to the public. Obviously, this is an emergency order that extends things. It allows us to have the ability to make decisions in between the gaps that we have with our order and the governor's. And we also know that this is a decision that has been made by the governor and not a decision that's been made by the city of Deerfield Beach. We couldn't reopen it if we wanted to. I believe that's pretty clear. We have Vice Mayor Parnas, Commissioner Drosky, and Commissioner Hudak.
I would like to make a motion to approve the extension as stated.
Yeah. Motion, Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Toward the residents' comments, I wanted to talk to the city attorney for a minute because I had a conversation with him prior to tonight's meeting on this exact topic, that extending the state of local emergency does not in any way, shape, or form prevent or inhibit our ability to reopen Deerfield Beach once we are given the green light from the governor and the county, correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
So it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, and I'd also note that the governor extended the state of emergency for the state for another, I think, 2 months. I believe it was last week, but still issued an order providing for phase 1 reopening.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hudak.
I also empathize with the resident who spoke up. We're all frustrated. We are all in the same boat. And as much as I wish this was a city decision, it really isn't. This is a state decision and then a county decision that the city and all of the residents, including everybody on this call, has to abide by. I wish we had other options and I wish we had other choices, but we really don't at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and second the Vice Mayor's motion to approve the resolution.
Commissioner Preston.
Before we vote, I'm going
Oh,
to
I'm
ask
sorry.
that our city manager maybe give this resident a call and make sure that it's clear that this is not something that the city of Deerfield Beach has control over, that this is a state mandate, and that it's clear to him, because there may be other people out there like himself that believes that the city has the ability to make this decision. So if you could, maybe give him a call. I think your explanation, Mayor, was right on target, but maybe if he gets a call and to really reiterate that point that this is from the state, not from the city, might help him to understand things a bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a motion and a second on the floor. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parnes,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes. Also, I just was informed the city of Pompano has canceled their 4th of July. No fireworks for the 4th of July from the city of Pompano. We have no other business on there. City manager, do you have anything else before we end this meeting? Okay, looking to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Parnas, second from Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting adjourned. And
See you at the CRA.
Thank you. We'll have to exit this meeting and start the next meeting.